Good morning, everyone. I'm too close again. Oh, I started out too close yesterday, and there we go. How is everybody? Welcome to Parent Power Hour. My name is Kristen, and we are here to get centered, to better ourselves so that we can better serve those around us that we love and that we care for, whether that means our families, the teams that we work on, or any other situations in our neighborhood, groups of friends that we are looking to in there for support. And that's what Parent Power Hour is all about. Whether or not you are a parent, eventually my hair will have the right lay that I'm looking for. And if not, I'll just keep moving it around until it gets there. If you're not a parent, you're not worried about my hair either, are you? If you are a parent, you're also not worried about my hair. All right, I'm going to stop worrying about it. We're moving on. I apologize for being a little bit late. Those of you who do watch, it's 10:04 here in Dallas, and we are here on Tuesday. Today is episode 27 of our Parent Power Hour, as well as all of our shows that we've been showing here on newminds.tv, and we've been going live every hour. And you're probably starting to notice also some of the programs for your kiddos this week are centered on Earth Week, which is super exciting. We have lots of things going on as a company that we're putting stuff out there for kids to get involved in, as far as thinking about reducing, reusing, recycling. Official Earth Day is tomorrow, April 22nd. So if you've got kiddos and you're looking to tune in all over the world, we're kicking it off tonight here in Dallas, because at 7 p.m. tonight, it's going to be, or we'll kick it off at 7 p.m. and then at 8 p.m. we are connecting with our New Minds partners over in Vietnam. It's going to be 8 a.m. on Wednesday the 22nd, and so they are kicking off our 24-hour challenge. Vietnam first for the first 5 or 6 hours, then passing it off to Beirut in Lebanon, and then passing it off to us here in the U.S. to finish up that 24-hour coverage of Earth Day, and the cardboard challenge is specifically what we're working on there. So that was just a little bit of a side note to give you a little info. If you're watching this recorded, if it's after the fact, we would still love for you to go back and see and do some of those projects. The idea there is that, and you've got cardboard. I'm staring at like a cardboard box right now from Amazon, and I'm staring at the reusable bags that I get every time I go to Trader Joe's now. One of my frustrations is that I have to use, I'm glad they're the reusable paper bags. I'm glad that they're that and they're not plastic. But I have my own bags, and right now, because of the COVID, I'm not allowed to take in my own bags because of the pandemic, and so it frustrates me because now now we're just piling up a bunch of brown paper bags. So this is a great use for them. Well, we've got all the info out of the way. Let's get in to work here. This week we're focusing on the 10 steps of Brené Brown's Rising Strong process, and I felt that coming, excuse me. And there are 10 steps, and some of them require a little bit more of dialing in. Some of them are ones that we've already covered here anyway on Parent Power Hour. So I hope that you're able to find something that you can connect with and that works for you and that helps take you to the next level in your understanding. To give you an idea, of course, please go check out her book. This either at the library for free, or go buy it on Amazon, go buy it wherever you usually buy your books and order them from. I bought this one way back in the day when I used to be able to go. I actually found the receipt from Barnes and Noble that's what I was using as a bookmark in my book. But I definitely recommend this, and then you can see the subtitle there. It's cut off a little at the bottom, but it's how the ability to reset transforms the way that we live, love, parent, and lead. So whether or not you are a parent, this definitely is something that can resonate with you should you be open to it. And her as a storyteller, if you're not a parent, you have time to listen to her. I actually listened first to her audio version of this book, And she's an amazing storyteller. She's from Houston, or from Texas. So she does have all these really strong, family colloquialisms, and the ways that she tells stories. She does use cuss words, which to me is always entertaining, especially when they're well placed. So definitely recommend, if you have the time, to listen to it, because she's such a great storyteller, and so much of what is part of the process is telling stories and resetting our lives. I mean, hello, we were forced to reset our lives at the beginning of this pandemic, and here we are. And Parent Power Hour, what we're doing this week and we started doing last week, was preparing to reset again, knowing that here we are in this process of redefining what is our new normal. There is a new normal, and people keep talking about that all the time. And the core of what this is that this is rebirth, right? There is something new that is going to be coming out. There are other seeds of things that are new, seeds of change that are already planted because of these new habits that we've been in, right? It takes 21 days to form a new habit. We're way past 21 days in all of this. And that these are core to the human experience. This isn't only in crisis, in chaos, in pandemic. These are core to who we are. So this is just a quick overview, or the summary of how Brené Brown describes the Rising Strong process, and that it is the same process whether you're negotiating personal or professional struggles. I think that's another super powerful reason why this is such a great source for us here on Parent Power Hour. Whether or not you are a parent, whether or not you are a teacher, whether or not you are working, whether or not, whatever your life situation is. Good morning, Janet. Glad that you're here. Just because you're standing in your office or you're not, or you're standing in your home office or your kitchen or your classroom or your studio, it doesn't mean that you can take the emotion out of this process. And I would even add to that that you're not taking the emotion out of living. Right? We're not taking our emotion out of that. I'm going to make it small here for a second. Yeah. So this is where we started with the summary. And I'd like for us to also move on. Let me find that second page. Because yesterday we talked about, there it is, we talked about the first and the second steps of Rising Strong. We talked about if Rising Strong 1, which is if we are brave enough, often enough, we will fall. And this is the physics of vulnerability. I recommend that you go back into, I'm just going to review these quickly. I'm not going to go into the big review of them. And then Rising 2, whoopsie, wrong way. I would like to go to page, there it is. Rising Strong 2 is that once we fall and we are in the service of being brave, we can't go back. And to some of us, that sounds daunting, and to some of us, that sounds freeing. So again, there's a lot. I feel like, I just want to go back and go in deeper with you all to get to that next level, but we're going to move on to Rising Strong 3 to start off for today. There are 10 of them, so we've got 5 days this week. I think we can get through all 10. I'm not really sure. We'll see how that goes together. That's the beauty of pivoting and being flexible. And yesterday we had some amazing comments coming in through from some participants, some parents, verbalizing out some of the fears that they have surrounding what's going on here. And I would even encourage your thinking in the way that these are fears that are always there, right? They are, or worries that you've had about your child's education, or the success or the financial stability of your family, or these are worries that have always been there. Now they're amplified, right? These are things that you've always had concern of because it's what's important to you. So here we are, Rising Strong 3. The journey belongs to no one but you. However, no one successfully goes it alone. I'm sure you read that while I was jibber-jabbering away. But we as a collective have been preparing for the lift. We have been contemplating and been getting our mindset focused on the future, getting our mindset focused on how we can prepare to rise. Rising Strong is just that. We will fall. It's the life experience. It's the human experience. And this is especially important right now in crisis because here we are and we have to get back up. And nobody can do this alone. There's also no specific path that's going to tell us individually how to rise, how to get back up, how to begin to recover from the job loss, to begin to recover from the family connection loss, from the community distance that you've had. There have been a lot of things that we have had to adjust and pivot to in our lives that are things that we've experienced loss about, that maybe some of the approaches that you've taken to learning opportunities in your home with your children, if you are parents, that aren't really the way that you said that you were valuing living your life as a as a family. And so there's no one path that's the same for us. And yet here we are, and we're all on this journey together. We determine for ourselves that path, yet it's the common human experience that we are on this path. Is that making sense to you? That there's this tension between nobody's ever done this before and all of these other people have also had to do this. Right? It's a little bit mucky. It's a little bit of, well, my neighbor, they just lost their job too, and so now we're moving into that zone, and we'll see what they learn from the whole experience. And yes, that's helpful, and also it's not going to be the same for them as it is for you and your family. There's this tension between um, having failed before, having experienced loss before, having the memory of the painful times, the memory of the good times, of having this past experience before, having been on this journey before, and yet also having never done it in this specific way. There's empowerment, and we're going to lean here for a second, that you are enough. You are enough. You have all the solutions within you. I'm like sitting up on the edge of my seat here. I'm getting fired up. You are enough. You have all the solutions within you. Feel empowered. Know that about yourself. Know that you're showing up here at Parent Power Hour to grow and to expand your learning, to better yourself. Whether you're watching recorded or watching live, you've chosen to take the step to be here and to tune into yourself and value yourself and say, I want to do X in my life today. I have the goal of becoming this person as a parent. I have the goal of showing up on my team meeting in this way today. And you are doing that on your own. And at the same time, the other side of that tension is that, yes, we are empowered and we're going side by side people. We're going side by side with those that we do love and care about. We are challenged by those that maybe rub us in a different way than what we wouldn't normally communicate in that way, or we wouldn't normally set those goals that specific way or have that conversation. And so in that sort of sense, you're also growing side by side with those people. We are the sum, and you guys have heard me say this before, and this is something when I heard that, I was like, oh wow, well that makes me, okay, so here it is. We're the sum of the 5 people that we spend the most time with. Right now, you're probably like, oh my God, that's my spouse and my 2 kids and the dog. Great. You're also spending time with me. Hello, I'm here. So I'm including into your sum today. I'm summing you up. I'm taking up that average level. Okay. You spend time with me, whether it's live or recorded. This is us spending time together. So we are the sum of each other right now. If you happen to be commenting or putting in questions or liking or interacting in any sort of way on our chat here live, then you would be contributing to the sum of who I am, right? Of the experiences that I've had. And I haven't talked to anybody yet this morning outside of my own personal space. So right now, I'm the sum of Brené Brown, and Janet's on here, and Shay's on here, and they've both popped in and said hello or sent a hi. So right now, I'm the sum of those 3 people. I had a Marco Polo conversation watched a reply back from a girlfriend of mine. So that's 4 people that I've technically had interactions with. I mean, we can call Brené Brown a person in this sense. So as it is right now, I'm the sum of those 5 people. Thanks to Janet, thanks to Shay, thanks to Brené, and thanks to Alexis. I'm trying to think if I've had any other input. Oh, and the singer Andrew Day, the song that I referenced yesterday. I listened to it this morning, trying to find maybe 10 to 15 seconds that I can play for you without Facebook like totally pulling off everything because it's not a copyright free song. So those are my 5 people. Good morning, Tina. I'm glad you're here. Good evening, 10, 9, 8, 7. Yeah, 7 p.m. over there. Glad you're here. So we're just reviewing how we are the sum of the 5 people that we spend, first of all, the most time with. And I'm being a little facetious right now by explaining the 5 people that I would categorize as the influencers of my time this morning. Is that who I spend most of my time with? Well, technically, yes. Right now, I'm spending a lot of time with Brené. So she's adding into my sum. So I want you to pause for a second and think about those 5 people. Maybe they are your children and your spouse, but also what are the other sources? Whether it's, I referenced Marco Polo. I referenced a song that I listened to. I referenced a book. I referenced the 2 people that were commenting and saying hi at that moment here on our comments. So those are my 5. So pause for a second and who are your 5? And maybe it's not today for you, but maybe think broader and think about how those people are bringing up your sum, for lack of a better term. Because there's this tension between this person driving you crazy because you've been in the house with only this person, right? Or with only these people for the past how many ever weeks. So there's tension with that. And yet there's also that even with that tension, even with that, like, oh my gosh, my kids, even with that jaw clenching, gritting moment, there's still ways that they're sharpening you and that you are sharpening them and that you're growing together. There's no path in our human experience that is without connection. This, I'm going to dip into what we talked about at the end of yesterday, which is makes it even more key that we have a strong sense of our boundaries, our integrity, and our generosity. BIG. Live big, says Brené. And our boundaries are what's going to help us to maintain our connection because that's the key to avoiding resentment, to avoiding resenting the way that your teenage daughter shuffles in the room with her head down on her phone. You can start to resent that. We all know. Well, you're especially middle schoolers and high schoolers, right? Like there's lots of emotions going on with them and we can take those on. And if we aren't, as parents, as caregivers, as teachers, we can even pick that stuff up virtually. Can I get an amen, teachers? Like when you are on a virtual class and you've got that attitude that coming from those middle school, high schoolers, that can seep in because their mom is making them sit down and go to class with you on a screen and they don't want to be there. Or who knows what the life situation is for them. And that is something that they are there. And if you're not careful as the teacher, as the parent giver, as the person who is interacting with that child, or if you're interacting with your spouse the way that they, don't clean up the dishes after dinner, whatever your scenario in your life is, that's where you can start to dip into resentment and dip into that unhealthy place of actually what the core of that is that you haven't maintained that boundary for yourself. And it's also possible that you haven't asked for what you need. Because a boundary is saying what's okay and what's not okay. And you may have set yourself up for someone you're expecting them to understand what's okay with you and what's not okay with you. I've been working with them for 10 years now. They should know that I'm not okay with just flying off an email that way to me. They should know that I am interested in hearing on the phone from them. If that thing's really that important, they need to call me. Don't just fly off an email. We've been working together for 10 years. They should know that. Whoa, you put that out there yourself. That's gonna deep resent. And what is important here is that we revisit, okay, they did that because of there's that generosity, considering what their life circumstances may be. And also, did we do anything to say that we're okay and we're not okay with that before it happened, after it happened, during it happening? It's not really going to work via email, but you could in person, right? Whoa, 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 wait a minute, wait a minute. I think I think I'm getting upset with you because I thought you understood. And careful of your tone here, friends. Careful of your tone here, right? Because I will say it to myself, and I'm just telling you the way my experience is like, oh, really? Oh, because I wasn't clear enough the 5,000 other times I told you not to say X, Y, and Z, right? I can get real snappy real quick. So it takes a lot of practice. Be careful with your tone. Okay, okay, okay. Wait, wait, wait. I'm getting a little frustrated here. It doesn't seem like we understand each other. So I'm reminding you, it's important for me to hear from you over the phone when there's an urgent matter. If it's sent to me via email, it's less likely that I can treat it with the urgency that is clear that it's important to you. Boundary setting. You did two things there. You let that person know that you're working with that their approach isn't okay for you. And your second thing that you're doing is letting them know what is okay for you, right? A lot of times, and this one, this is like 7 chapters worth in the book, but Brené points out the fact that a lot of times we are so afraid of our own needs, so we won't actually look any need in the eye, whether that's someone that's less fortunate than us, someone that is whatever position that we've put ourselves in. Let me just read, since this is something that has a lot of power behind it and has such a strong connection of how we approach Rising Strong 3. I'm put it back up for you. This fact that this journey belongs to no one but you. However, no one successfully can go at it alone. And we don't have to do it alone. We were never meant to do it alone. You might find yourself in certain situations saying, I don't know if I can do this, like and I just back out, right? Um, we can often be so afraid of our own need that we can't look need in the eye. Brené has this huge story about, you know, her Mima is suffering from dementia and having to, give her a bath, and her Mima not realizing, because she smelled, she wasn't taking care of herself anymore because of suffering from dementia, and her Mima, reverting to this childlike state, and her having, as a 29-year-old, having to bathe her, and that was so humbling for her, and she found herself, not wanting to look her in the eye. For this may not be relevant to you, so think of a time, think of maybe you back when people used to be out and about. You've sat at a red light before, and there's been someone that's homeless that's come up, and yeah, you'll probably hand them a bottle of water, or here in Texas, maybe some sunscreen. There are other things that we give them when they come up to you at the stoplight. That's, or if you do give them money, you typically just, okay, here you go, here you go. You avert your eye, and not because of not wanting to look at them and being disgusted by them, but at the fact that they're begging, they're asking for your help. Brené's Mima was asking for her help. She went to her and, Mima, you really smell. Let's try to take a bath. And with her instinct was to raise up her arms so Brené could take her clothes off of her and wash her. And so we avert our eyes a lot of times. We don't make eye contact with the people that come to us and ask us for help because we're so afraid of our own need. And this is where this really deep sense of vulnerability can click in, because especially as parents, there's this theme that you must be a martyr or a champion, this perfection thing, right? This I have all the answers to every child development issue that my child is going to experience, and I'm chuckling because it's even child development psychologists don't have all the answers because every child is different. Every journey is different. Every day with even the same child is different. You guys know that. Um, the key learnings here for seeking help, and be careful. I'm not saying this is for overall deep mental health issues that 100% you should be seeking professional help. And if you are an adult in here that is the position of your life, please reach out to someone. If you don't feel that you can do that because there's too many people that are too close to you, then send me a DM. I probably don't even know you, and I can get you in touch with someone that is a trained professional to help you with these things along your journey. What I am talking about here are these things that we beat ourselves up with that are, oh, what was the word that it was like small p problems, right? There are big P problems that are catastrophic, disease. I chuckled because of how we're living right now. But disease, cancer, death, those can be big P problems. What I'm talking here are little P problems, things that eat at us, right? That start to make us resent the people in our lives. And so what we'll often do is just try to fix it, try to solution, fix, you know, and look for answers. And what we're part of the Rising Strong process is that we do seek help, and seeking help is fundamental to our human experience. A lot of times we don't ask for that help because we've already judged ourselves. We end up judging ourselves because we're asking for help. And when you judge, I'm just going to read from page 180 here. When we start to rise, we can start to see that when we judge ourselves for needing help, we actually are judging those that we're helping. When you attach value to giving help, you attach value to needing help. The danger of tying your self-worth to being a helper is feeling shame when you have to ask for help. Offering help is courageous and compassionate, but so is asking for help. Compassionate people ask for help. We can't make it through this Rising Strong process without help and support. We can't make it through life without help, with this crisis without help and support. We all need people we can turn to for help when we're rumbling, as Brené always says, when we're getting in there with the most confusing part, the most frustrating parts of our stories. And that takes us to Rising Strong step 4, which is we are wired for story. I'm just going to put that up for you. It's that simple. It's that simple. We're wired for story. We've talked about this before here on Parent Power Hour about the story we end up telling ourselves because, and you'll even hear your kiddos do this, right? Because what we're trying, it's our natural human instinct. It's the way our brain happens for us to make meaning. And that's what storytelling is. That's what if you have ever seen a counselor or a child therapist, there's play therapy for a reason. There is storytelling and puppets. Mr. Rogers, oh my gosh, you guys, like think about that. If you're any kind of in the range of age as I am, we grew up watching Mr. Rogers, and that's all story because children respond to stories that are being told. And of course, we've got, piles and piles and piles of books in our homes for our kids to, have to work on character development and certain things that as a parent, you may not feel equipped or you may not have enough training to really do some of these heavy lifting, emotional character development type of stories, right? Of work with your child. So we go to books with kids. We go to the puppets and the storytelling up to certain ages, right? That's how we're wired. And as adults, as parents, as team members, as people in relationship with each other, whether that's virtually or in person, we're going to start telling ourselves some stories, and we're going to start making stuff up. Sometimes it's good and sometimes it's not good. Sometimes it's helpful to us understanding, as far as the story that we're telling ourselves is helpful to us translating and converting some meaning into our experience. And sometimes the story that we end up making up is nowhere near the reality of our current situation. And Brené says that the most dangerous stories that we make up are the narratives that diminish our inherent worthiness. That, well, if I ask somebody for help, that means that they think I need help. And if I need help, then that probably means I'm helpless. And if I'm helpless, well, that probably means I'm powerless. And if I'm powerless, then they've already got a hold over me, and they're in a position where they're going to feel like that I'm less than they are. And then, whoa, we start spiraling into that inherent worthiness real quick. This is how 3 and 4 connect, right? And so the most dangerous stories we tell ourselves are the ones that are that negative self-talk. Did you tell her in your side of your head? Did you name her? And did you tell her to shut it when you just went there for a second? Because I know you did. I did. I did too. I started to get in there and I was like, wait a minute. Sister in my head, I have a name for her. I hope you have a name for yours too. She pops up at the moments where you're like, I'm going in deep. I'm going to make some progress on myself here, and I'm going to step away, and I'm going to be somebody that can move out throughout the rest of my day or start tomorrow fresh. And next thing you know, that negative self-talk creeps in. And we must reclaim that story. We must reclaim that story. We must reclaim the truth of our lovability, of Brené even says of our divinity and of our creativity. And this isn't just her making some conclusions about life. This is based off of her research. Her research participants who had gone through painful life experiences, breakups, divorces, being betrayed, trust has been, totally, there's no way to restore trust. Their number one research, or the number one theme that she found out of all those stories, was that they ended up telling themselves that they were unlovable, that they weren't worthy of love because so many people had left them, because their parents had gotten a divorce in front of their eyes, because their boss at work made them feel like crap for things that they thought that they were doing to contribute and make the world a better place. And they end up questioning, we end up questioning whether or not we're worthy of love. The second area is that of a lie that we end up shifting into. Brené says that showed up in her research participants was that the majority of them, over half of them actually, who talked about experiencing shame, had to do with their faith stories. No one specific denomination, but that this negative position of, I'm not good enough, I'm a bad person, I'm gonna go to hell, and not like a sassy, go to hell, like, not like that, like, I'm bad, I did something bad, therefore I have fallen from grace. Don't get me started, you guys. This one was hard for me, and I'm skipping over it real fast because I have a lot of negative associations with the shame that is often misplaced, or that is pushed on. I'm trying to choose my words so carefully because it's loaded for me, but that the manipulation that can happen from the position of 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 faith, of people, of humans coming in and saying, do X, Y, and Z, and if you don't do X, Y, and Z, then you're a terrible person, you're going to go to hell, and God's not going to love you anymore. That seems intense. Some of us have that spiritual experience. If you haven't, or have that experience, that's not spiritual. Have that experience in a faith-based community. Ooh. If you haven't, God bless you, and He has kept you and protected you, and you have a different experience than I have, and that over half of these research participants that Brené Brown researched, looking at where does our sense of worthiness and our sense of stories that we've made up in our head about whether or not we're worthy of love comes from. Our faith narratives must be protected. If you're not one of those people, then keep it protected, because no one person is given the power or position or ordained to judge our worthiness or to write our stories of our spiritual worthiness. No one person has a direct connection to the higher being, to God, to the unit, whatever your perception of a higher being of power and spirituality comes from. No one person has a stronger connection to that than you do on your own. And I'm going to stop because I'm going to get going for 30 more minutes. And Tina just said, I hear you. So, woo, that just, I'm starting my hand, literally, you guys, my hands are sweaty. All right, the third one. The most dangerous stories we make up are the narratives that diminish our inherent worthiness, and we must reclaim the truth about our lovability, divinity, and, get this one, you guys, creativity. What? 85% of the men and women that were interviewed in this research study, for the reason of shame, when looking back at their lives and trying to identify what points of deep shame that shaped the story that they were telling themselves, could recall, are you guys ready for this? A school incident. 85%. They could point to a specific school incident where they were told or shown that they weren't good enough writers, artists, musicians, dancers, something creative. Tina's gonna get she's gonna get on this with me too. I'm a former music teacher. I taught music for 15 years. I have 2 degrees in music. There's so much that can be that I can't even decide where to start because it's so big. But there's nothing worse. Okay, here we go. I got it. I bet a lot of you that are listening right now could probably tell me a story about how you started out playing piano, and then by the time you were 5 or 7 or 9 or whatever the age was, you quit. And I bet if you, right here, right now as an adult, and this happens I'm talking you guys all across the world. If I was in Bali, maybe I was on a tour and starting to chat with somebody, and they'd be like, oh yeah, you teach music? Yeah, I teach music. That's so cool. I always wanted to play the piano. Okay, well, yeah, tell me about that. Well, when I was in kindergarten, my teacher told me I didn't sing very well, but I would love to play piano. That story is like, I would say, as a music teacher, and Tina can attest to this as well. She's been a music teacher for 20 plus years now. Oh man, maybe she's right at 20. No, I think she's right at 20. But I bet if I took a poll and actually did quantitative, qualitative, whatever research, I could tell you probably 9 out of 10 times when I meet someone and I say, oh yeah, I'm a music teacher, and they come back and they have some story about how they would have been able to, or how they did play back then. And oh, well, why'd you stop? Okay, so you played, flute in middle school. Why'd you stop? Well, my parents, I'm practicing, it was pretty terrible. And so that's a specific story about actual music performance, which of course is highly correlated with creativity, which that's another debatable, like 3.5 hours of a conversation that you and I can get into. Creativity versus performance is not the same. But back to the point here is that, and I'm actually going to read hers so I don't get off track, because I'm already off track. I get fired up about these things and I have to bring it back in. So let me wrap it up for you in this way, for this thought, that just because we didn't measure up to some standard of achievement, and this doesn't have to be about being a musician, you guys. This can be about whether or not you took, AP courses in high school, whether or not you were able to get an academic scholarship to go to college, whatever your academic status could be. Just because we didn't measure up to some standard of achievement doesn't mean that we don't possess gifts and talents that only we can bring to the world. Just because someone failed to see the value in what we can create or achieve doesn't change its worth or ours. I'm going to read it again for you in the back. For you perfectionists that are still recovering perfectionists, and you're recovering from this also in your parenting, translate this to your parenting. I'm going to read it again. Translate it to your parenting. Just because we don't measure up to some standard of achievement, that doesn't mean we don't possess gifts and talents that only we can bring to the world. Just because someone failed to see the value in what we can create or achieve doesn't change its worth or ours. It's a reflex of the storytelling mind's compulsive need for meaningful experience that we try to associate. Well, I am too much. I am not a good enough musician. I am a terrible parent, because we're trying to solidify that meaning of that story in our actual physical makeup of our brain. So here's what I'm leaving you with today. What story are you telling yourself? We have reviewed, we'll go ahead and go back, and today we've reviewed Rising Strong 3 and 4, and that this journey that we're on belongs to no one but us. However, so one successfully goes at it alone. And also that we're wired for story. And what I hope that you take with you today is that there are ways that we can power ourselves up to continue to answer these questions in a way that's true, the questions that end up emerging that's true to who we are. I hope that you're enjoying this journey. If you're not enjoying it, that's okay too, because it's some tough work that we're really leaning into. And join me again tomorrow. We'll get into 5 and 6, Rising Strong. There are 10 steps of the process. Again, these are none of my original thoughts. What I'm doing is I'm translating and passing on to you the 10 steps of the Rising Strong process, and so that we can sit with it, make meaning of it, make our own stories out of it. I hope that you found something that was inspirational to you today, that was real. And I'm going to finish up with this song, and it's going to be a really subpar recording. But I'm going to get in a few seconds of it, so that if they do turn us off, it's okay, because we're at the end of our time anyways. But I wanted to play a quick little few seconds from the Rise Up song, and then we'll go. I hope you have a wonderful day. Stay inspired. Keep pursuing your passions until they become your talents. And we'll finish with this.